If you're tired all the time and you have constant carbohydrate cravings, you're struggling with your weight, you're having a hard time regulating your period, and you have PCOS, it's probably the insulin resistance. So many individuals with PCOS have insulin resistance, and they hear that term a lot, right? But no one actually tells us what it is, what's happening in our bodies, why it actually matters. So, this is what I'm going to do today in the video. I'm going to break it down so you can understand exactly what insulin resistance is, what's happening in your body, and why it's important to address. Hi, my name is Maggie Conley. I'm a registered dietitian. I also have PCOS, and I'm a culinary nutritionist, and I love to share how you can use food to help improve your PCOS symptoms. I like to start off by telling all my clients that we have three main components that I kind of look at when we're looking at reducing symptoms. One thing is going to be insulin resistance, another is going to be chronic inflammation, another one's going to be gut health. Luckily, these three areas have a little triangle and they all connect, and there's a lot of diet and lifestyle factors that can affect all of them. But let's focus on the insulin resistance. Insulin resistance is when your cells are not recognizing your insulin correctly. Normal insulin function is when you eat something with carbohydrates, and carbohydrates is this big word, right? I just imagine like carbohydrates, it seems scary, but it's actually your body's fuel source. And carbohydrates get broken down into glucose. That's its smallest form. There's different types of carbohydrates. There's some that are broken down more quickly and some that are broken down more slowly. And when you have insulin resistance or PCOS, you want to have the ones that are broken down more slowly. So your blood sugar rises a lot more slowly. This is going to be things like whole grains, fruits, vegetables, beans, legumes. So let's say we eat the carbohydrate, it gets broken down into glucose. Your blood sugar is going to rise because that's what's supposed to happen, right? When your blood sugar is high, your brain recognizes that and it sends out insulin from your pancreas, from the beta cells. They make the insulin. So insulin comes out and insulin enters your bloodstream, and its job is basically to open up the individual cell doors so glucose can go inside your cell. Okay. That way your body can use it as energy. When all the glucose goes inside your cell, your blood sugar starts to drop again. Before it gets too low, your brain will send signals to eat again. So that's like normal insulin function. You have these nice, beautiful rolling hills. Now, the problem is when you have insulin resistance, what happens? You eat something with carbohydrates, it gets broken down into glucose, it raises your blood sugar. Insulin is sent out from that pancreas in the response. But for some reason, those keys are not fitting into the cell doors. There are insulin receptors on all of your cells, and for some reason, it's not recognizing that insulin. As a result, the brain's like, oh, wow, that blood sugar is still really high. We should send out more insulin and more insulin and more insulin. And eventually, your bloodstream is overwhelmed with all this extra insulin, and the cell doors will open. Glucose, blood sugar, will move inside that cell. But then, you're left with all this extra insulin floating around your bloodstream, way more than what your body needed at that time. So this is what happens. Let's say you had a little bit more carbohydrate than what you technically need at that meal. Well, insulin is a growth hormone and promotes fat storage. So what insulin does is it's going to be like, ooh, yay, finally, extra food. Let's store that as fat. That was a survival mechanism. Individuals that could store fat easily survived, passed on these genes to us. But most of us have a more consistent supply of food nowadays, not everybody, but we don't need to live off these fat reserves as much as we did in the past. Your high insulin levels are promoting fat storage. That's why it's really easy to gain weight when you have PCOS. It's very difficult to lose weight because your body's kind of in fat storage mode. It's like, oh, store fat, store fat, store fat. Okay. So that's the first thing that it does. The second thing is when you have high insulin levels in the bloodstream, your ovaries are very sensitive to insulin. And as a result of the high insulin levels, your ovaries will start releasing high testosterone. Then that cascades down and affects the sex hormones. So then you have an imbalance in your sex hormones. You might have irregular periods. You might get acne, hair loss, hair growth, things like that. So that's how some of your symptoms are appearing. The other thing that can happen is when your bloodstream is overloaded with all this insulin, it can drop the blood sugar like really quickly. So let's say it was up high, shoots it down. When that happens, when your blood sugar drops really quickly, your brain starts to panic because your brain wants these beautiful rolling hills that we talked about in the first example. So when your blood sugar drops really quickly, your brain sends out signals like eat, eat, I need sugar, I need glucose. It's kind of what I call like primal hunger to some of my patients. And it makes sense to them when you have PCOS, when you have these really intense carbohydrate cravings, can't move on with your day. It's not like, oh, I like just a piece of chocolate. It's like, no, I have to eat that whole loaf of bread kind of thing. So when your blood sugar drops really quickly, that's when you're going to have those intense cravings because your body's shouting out for carbs to raise that blood sugar up. So the goal is that we want the blood sugar to be nice rolling hills, and we want to prevent the big drops because also when you have a big drop, it's going to result in a larger spike the next time. And you might get stuck in the vicious cycle of like up, down, up, down, up, down. And that's when you start feeling tired and fatigued and have cravings and have an imbalance in sex hormones and have your symptoms. Okay, so now we know what exactly insulin resistance is, but why does it matter and what can we do to help improve it? When you're looking at managing blood sugars, we want to make sure we're eating carbohydrates that are fiber rich. We want to be having meals with protein and healthy fats. This combination of fat, fiber, and protein really helps stabilize your blood sugar. So your blood sugars are nice rolling hills instead of the big spikes, ups and downs that I was talking about. The other thing that we need to make sure we understand is that that cell door that we're trying to open with the key, the insulin key, that cell door, it could be like rusty, creaky, and we can improve the hinges, basically like oil the hinges with lifestyle factors or medications or supplements with sleep. So besides nutrition, you can also improve your insulin sensitivity, how well your body responds to insulin by exercise and movement, by medications, by sleep, by stress management. It is a whole person approach. So, yeah, you might want to evaluate, are you getting enough sleep? Are you taking any medications or supplements that might help improve it? Are you having balanced meals consistently throughout the day? Are you getting movement in? All of these things will help improve your insulin sensitivity. So, I know I just threw a lot of science at you, but that's basically the explanation I give my clients. If you're interested in working one on one with me, I'll leave a link below in the description where I do accept insurance and I might be able to work with you depending on your state and your insurance plan. But I wanted to provide that explanation because I feel like so many individuals with PCOS are never really told, like, what exactly is insulin resistance and why is it important for PCOS? What are your next steps? Your next steps are to check out the 7-day free insulin resistance meal plan. And it's not like a strict meal plan. I don't want you to freak out. It's just guidance and it gives you inspiration and ideas around foods to incorporate. Make sure you subscribe if you like these educational videos, if you like cooking videos, if you like realistic tips about how to support your PCOS.